Well, good evening and welcome to the City of Topeka Planning Commission meeting. We are a commission appointed by the mayor and city council to plan for the orderly growth and development of the community, to hold public hearings, and to make recommendations to the city council on planning items. Please note that the city council rules state that public hearings for planning cases shall be conducted solely by the planning commission. No additional public hearings will be conducted by the city council. Tonight's cases are tentatively scheduled to be heard by the city council next month. Agendas can be found at www.topeka.org. Many of tonight's cases involve public hearings. For those cases, the procedures will be as follows. First, the planning department staff will summarize the case. Next, we will hear from the applicant or the representative. Then we will receive public testimony, and all public comments should be addressed solely to the chair and limited to 4 minutes in length. With that, Bill, please take roll.
Beardmore. Here. Beck.
Here.
Cuevas Stubblefield is absent. Crook.
Here.
Gales.
Here.
Ha.
Here.
Jefferson. Here. Jordan.
Here.
And Lackey.
Here.
We have 8. We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Bill. We'll look at the meeting minutes from last month. Are there any additions, corrections, or motions?
Move to approve.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes. We'll move on to any communications. Mr. Finder.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple reminders. Next week, you have off. No scheduled meeting. Unfortunately, we will probably have 2 in September, and they're a little bit different. We're going to have our zoning and plating meeting on the 22nd, which is the 4th Monday. We will send out notices and meeting reminders. And we'll probably have a 5th Monday policy meeting. I apologize for the staggered Mondays, and 22nd of September we will be rehearing the a new Walgreens application at 29th and Gage, and a couple other zoning items you initiated for North Topeka and Oakland. And then on the 29th, we'll do a walkthrough of our land use and growth management plan. We'll send out a draft, the actual body of the text and the maps and everything for that meeting ahead of time. Also, we are scheduling 3 community meetings for the land use and growth management plan in September. We'll send out more information, but for right now, on the 3 Thursdays in September, September 4th, 11th, and 18th, we will be having at least one at Holiday Building. We'll have another at the library, and we're looking at having one out in the community, probably at a site to be determined very, very soon. And then, gosh, is that it? Lastly, so that's all of our meeting stuff. So September, so please come. You're not required to come to those, but I just wanted you to know that those are going to be sessions that we present a lot of the land use and growth management draft that you've been hearing about. We'll talk about trends. We'll talk about sort of where the city's growth has been and where it's going, and get feedback from the community on that. So you're more than welcome to attend those. One will be during the day. The others will be in the evening, and we'll get those out. We should finalize that this week. Okay. Lastly, I want to recognize Commissioner Beardmore. This is his final meeting after 6 years of hard labor. It's certainly been an honor. I've been here at least that long, and know that he's been one of the best planning commissioners we have had. I don't think he's missed any meetings. Probably. I'm building you up now, so if I get any of this wrong, let me know. But No, very, very dependable, does his homework, just really an asset to the community, and all unpaid. So we are very, very lucky to have his service for the last 6 years, and we were so lucky that we made him an honorary vice chair tonight, accidentally. So again, that's all, that's the most we could come up with. Budget's tight, so that's honorary vice chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But anyway, pleasure, and we're going to miss you, and thank you very much for your, I want the city of Topeka to thank you for your service to this community. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Director. It's been a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to work with commissioners that I have over the past 6 years, and certainly your staff over that same time period. It's taught me that they work hard and are a vital cog in this major machine we have here at the city, and learned a lot, and hope to continue to serve the community in some fashion. Besides the mechanical board, I'm sure there's other ways to do that, and I would encourage citizens to get involved in their community this way, in any way, to understand further all the issues that do come about, and to be intelligent citizens and good parts of the community. So thank you for that.
I guess I would too echo, as sitting over here, it's been a pleasure working with you, Rich, and look forward to continued seeing you around the community and business world. So thank you for your service. And, you know, since he is honorary vice chair, maybe we should just turn the meeting over to Rich for the rest of the time tonight and let him have it. No, we won't do that. But do truly thank you for serving. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
Is that it for communications?
That's all, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Okay, I know Mr. Lackey had one question for you.
Yeah, I had a question. Since I didn't write down those dates of those community meetings, are you gonna send us an email of that?
I will. Yes, we'll send it out. Again, September 4th, 11th, and 18th. And just if you're if you're curious, the 4th will probably be at the Holiday Building in the evening. The 11th will be out in the community in the evening. And then the 18th will be at the library during the afternoon. Do we have a time on that yet? I think at 2 o'clock. So, and we'll send out the particulars to you all.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move forward? Okay, seeing none. Item D, any ex parte communication or conflicts this evening? Any items on the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on to item E with our public hearing item this evening. Case Z1408. Ms. Driver, I believe that's you.
Thank you. This is by Donna J. Armstrong Trust. It's a request to amend the zoning from PUD planned unit development for M2 multiple family uses to O&I2 office and institutional district. It's on 2 lots that are located at the end of Southwest Armstrong Avenue, which is a 500-foot long cul-de-sac. It's near the intersection of Southwest 29th and Wanamaker. The 2 lots total contain 4.5 acres. Lot 1 contains nearly 1 acre, and Lot 3 contains 3.5 acres. The initial phase would consist of 1 office building on Lot 1. Future phases of the development would entail the development of Lot 3 for additional offices. The area transitions from commercial uses located at the corner of 29th and Wanamaker to office, multiple family, and then on to single family as you move further west. Properties have remained vacant as zoned for multiple families since 1974 when they were rezoned as part of a larger planned unit development. They've remained undeveloped since at least 1942. Property is probably no longer suitable as zoned under the current PUD for multiple family since that plan was approved in 1974 for a larger area, which took up more properties than just the subject property. Those other properties, which were originally part of the PUD, have subsequently been rezoned, platted for other uses. That decreases the likelihood of the PUD developing as it was approved back in 1974. The land use and growth management plan indicates the area is planned for commercial office. The request is in conformance to plan policies that recommend offices be used as transitional land uses into residential. There would be no detriment on the public health, safety, and welfare by rezoning properties to office and institutional based upon the pattern of land use and zoning in the area for offices. In addition, the completion of the access road would help to increase capacity at the major arterial intersection of Wanamaker and 29th, currently carrying nearly 30,000 trips per day. That connection of Villa West Drive and 30th Terrace would be supported by staff, since it would eliminate dead-end streets in excess of 500 feet, would provide a better access for the office properties to both the east and the west, and it would help to relieve traffic from passing through the intersection. A note on the current plat for Crest Ridge Square subdivision number 4, which was just replatted in 2014, requires the replatting of Lot 3 to address the connection between Villa West and 30th Terrace prior to development. Further, that would be a major plat because of the need for new street construction and dedication, meaning the Planning Commission would see that plat. The applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on July 31st. That report to the city is attached. Staff recommends approval. The applicant's here to take your questions if you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Driver. Any questions for Annie before we look at the public hearing?
I have one question. It shows the road extensions from Villa West Drive and from 30th Street coming, I guess it's 30th, coming to Lot 3. Would it also plat or be extended through that lot and split that lot into 2 parts, or what was the intent there?
That's what we would be supportive of. That will have to be addressed by a replat before they can build on that lot, which it's specifically noted on the current subdivision. That current subdivision was just done recently to address the selling off of that house to the north.
Okay.
So the street connection will need to be addressed.
Guess I will ask just a clarification, then the 2 cul-de-sacs, one to the west and one to the east, are not, they're too long as far as ingress egress for fire truck standards. So those are not able to be utilized by Lot 3. Or not
Right, and they
preferred
don't
to be
come all the
used.
way to the property boundary either.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't reach the property boundary anyway.
There would still need to be some type of replat. Those would be used.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Fine.
just, I'm not sure if it's completely clear or not, but we absolutely would require the street to connect. I didn't know if that was clear or not. There was some talk in the past about maybe if it just stayed single family, that there wouldn't be a need to do that, but once the upzoning, the higher zoning is in place, that we definitely would require that.
Thank you. So the potential then is we'd have 2 lots out of Lot 3. It'd be a lot split and end up with 2 more office sites. Any other questions of staff? Hearing none, we will open the public hearing portion. Is there a representative for the applicant here this evening? It's a lucky guess that you were the applicant, the only one in the audience.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of actually the buyer of the property, or the potential buyer of the property. I represent Yantra Services and Winding Road LLC, the potential buyers of the property.
Sir, may I please state your name and your address?
My name is Jay Hall, and would you like my address or the address of the company?
In Topeka is fine.
The address,
Company.
my address is 1421 Southwest Boswell, and the zip is 66604.
Thank you. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay. As I said, I represent the buyers, and we negotiated specifically in the purchase contract that the purchase would be contingent on the zoning change here. I represent, as I said, a company, and we are looking at specifically at Lot 1 there to build a potential office on the northernmost site. Lot 3 is part of the package, but we are not planning any development on that site as of yet. Right now, we are a bank and technology company. The bank is one company, and then obviously the technology company builds software for financial use, so houses nicely with the bank. We're looking to have a site that would house both of those entities at the same time. The bank site is not a commercial site, so we wouldn't need things like drive-up access for customers or anything like that. It's more back office staff, so there's no need for lots of access or lots of car traffic or foot traffic, as it would just be office space. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have about either the bank or the technology company or our plans for either of the sites.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions for Mr. Hall?
I have one.
Yes.
So I'm assuming from your description that the cul-de-sac access from the north would be plenty for Lot 1 that you're proposing, is that correct?
The cul-de-sac access would probably have to be extended. I talked to Ms. Driver about that, but it looks like it would probably have to be extended slightly to give us a drive up, because it only accesses that small corner that you see on the drawing there.
Right, that's what I wondered,
yeah.
if you had enough room.
But we may have to extend it 10 or 15 feet to get enough room to have a driveway and a turn into that lot. But other than that, that street access would be adequate.
Okay, thank you.
So, may I?
You certainly may,
Yes,
Mr. Gates.
and to be clear, then, the seller is the owner of the adjacent residential property?
No, that is not the
And
case.
is that a shared access agreement, with them that you would extend that road? I guess I'm misunderstanding a little bit.
It's just gonna cut in and drive.
Okay, so beyond just cutting in the drive, you're not talking about stretching the road further due south, you're talking about projecting it onto your property?
Correct. We
Okay.
would need to project onto our property in some way in order to have room
Absolutely.
for a drive, because right now I've been out to the site. The site only has about 10 or 12 feet worth of frontage on that cul-de-sac. So it's not a lot of room there. So we
Sure.
would probably have to do something
My
in
apo-
order
I
to
mis-
actually put a drive there.
My apologies, I misunderstood that to be that you would be extending the road to the south so that more of your property would front the road. So
No,
that
that
clarifies for me.
was not my intent.
Okay, thank you.
I have one other question. Do you plan to use any access off of 30th Terrace down there at the other end?
Actually, 30th Terrace does not reach all the way to Lot 3.
Yeah, it does,
It-
but it does reach to Lot 1, doesn't
No,
it?
no, it does not. It does
Oh,
not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 30th Terrace
I
doesn't
missed,
reach
I
to
missed
either
the
of the
red
lots.
line.
Oh, okay.
Withdraw the question.
Any other questions for Mr. Hall? Seeing none at this time, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the matter? I know,
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
if you're open for comments, I did drive by the lot over the weekend, and I feel like O&I too is well in line with the context of the neighborhood, and I have no issues with any of this. So I would be in favor of it and would make a motion to approve. Oh, my apologies. I didn't let you get away. I was assuming since nobody else is in the...
comments are duly noted, and at this time, I will close the public hearing portion.
Now, could I reallocate
So
my
do you wish
comments?
to,
Yes, I would, thank you. So, to reiterate, yes, having driven by the site, do find it in context with the area, and I would make a motion to approve.
we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Mr. Crook. Any discussion on the motion? So I will say, I was going to chime in on the same regards as Mr. Gales, that this area does lend itself nicely to the O and I usage, particularly with the existing O and I to the west and a couple of lots there to the southeast that are already zoned, and I guess straight south of Lot 1. That would connect the O and Is together, and seems like a logical move in my opinion, so I would support that. Any other discussion before we have a vote? Seeing none, Mr. Finder, if you would please call roll.
Aye.
Beck,
Aye.
Crook,
Aye.
Gales,
Aye.
Ha,
Aye.
Jefferson,
Aye.
Jordan,
Aye.
and Lackey.
Aye.
We have 8 yes, motion passes. Zoning is approved.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. Appreciate that. That is our one public hearing item this evening. We'll move on to our item F, which is a discussion item for the Land Use and Growth Management Plan. Which one of you wants to start this one?
I'll just introduce Dan, and he's going to carry the load here. Up until now, we've been meeting with our technical advisory team on the update to the Land Use and Growth Management Plan the last 6 months or so. We brought to you, I think, in the last month, a presentation on the growth management part with the urban growth area and the tiers. This is the other half of the plan update, which focuses on land use, and very poignant example here tonight with the first zoning case is something that we look at, is the first thing we look at and have when we meet with people is what does the future land use say for the area. So this is very important piece we wanted to run by you tonight, and Dan's going to walk you through some of the changes that we've made or proposing to make.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. I handed out the existing future land use plan map, so you can use that as a bit of a point of comparison. I'm going to talk about the future land use significant changes. These are just some of the major tweaks, you could say, that we made to the existing plan. So first up is we tightened the urban growth boundary to reflect more what we're working on with our proposed urban growth boundary, which we'll talk about after the future land use plan. If you look at what I handed out and compare it to the proposed future land use map, you can see it's a little tighter around the city, and we call out an urban growth residential area and an urban growth employment area, and that matches the service tiers that we'll go through after we talk about future land use. And once we get through all the process here, those two maps will match. That urban growth boundary on that future land use map will match what we end up with for our urban growth area. We'll zoom in a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
If I may interject on the urban growth area, that's outside the city. We don't project specific land uses within those areas. It's outside the city. But by and large, if you read the text, the urban growth area, that light green part is residential. The gray urban growth area is employment, so think industrial. But that we don't get specific like we do within the city.
Okay. The next major changes involves commercial land use. The existing plan had commercial and office put together as one category. We're actually separating commercial and office categories, and then within the commercial, we are noting or categorizing different types of commercial. So regional commercial, meaning the Wanamaker corridor, basically community commercial, and neighborhood commercial. And we classify those based on average daily traffic counts, functional street classification, the amount of commercial acreage that's zoned or currently in use, and sort of the broad pattern of land uses. One of the sort of major themes of this update is nodal development, nodal commercial development. That is an idea that's in the existing land use plan, but we're really more refining it. Or it's in the existing growth management plan. We're really more refining it with this document. So nodal development being a major theme again. And the nodal development basically is you concentrate the commercial development, that higher intensity development at the intersection. You've got, you know, four corners, you know, basically two arterials coming together. You really, you keep all that development at the corner. You don't let it strip out along the residential road. And then within that node, you would share access. You try to limit the amount of driveways. You would have cross-access agreements, those sorts of things. And then you would basically transition your land uses out away from the node and then into the single-family neighborhood. So really concentrating the commercial development at the node. An example of a commercial node would be at, would be at Fairlawn and 21st. That would be a regional, I'm sorry, a community commercial node. So if you look at the map, the size of the circle on the map reflects how big that commercial node is. The biggest circle on the map is a community commercial node, and then it goes down to the smaller circles being neighborhoods. So, and then so basically you look at the circle, you note, okay, community commercial, then you go to the text, and that's something we included in your packet, the future land use categories. You would go to those categories and then find your policies regarding community commercial nodes. So nodal development being the sort of the primary, the preferred development pattern now and in the future. And then to designate a corner as a commercial node, you need at least three or more of the to designate an intersection as a commercial node, you need three or more of the corners to be commercial. So contrast that with mixed use node, that's two or fewer commercial corners makes a mixed use node. Three or more commercial corners makes a commercial node. Is there any questions about that?
Dan, do you want to explain in terms of community versus neighborhood, kind of the pool factor for what makes those different?
Right. So a neighborhood commercial, a small or a large, the intent of that commercial area is really to draw from the neighborhoods that are immediately around that area. So again, 21st and Fairlawn, that's a community commercial area. That's not drawing just from the neighborhoods around that node. It's drawing from a larger area that are beyond the immediate neighborhoods around the node. So the size of that center and the fact that it's drawing from a larger area makes it a community versus a neighborhood, large or small neighborhood commercial node. If we move into mixed use is a major theme, also a major theme of this future land use and of the land use and growth management update. We've sort of woven mixed use throughout the different land use categories, and we've actually designated mixed use nodes. And again, that's that nodal development. If it's two or fewer commercial corners, that's considered a mixed use node. An example of that is 17th and Fairlawn. You've got essentially two corners at that intersection that's commercial, and the other two corners are non-commercial. So that's one of the criteria. Then would be two or fewer corners, but you're also designating mixed-use areas or nodes where you think you've got some room to redevelop an area, and it would benefit from sort of loosening up or having some more flexibility with the mixed-use ideas. So again, mixing uses is a big part of this, a big part of compact development, vertical development. And then we designate some mixed-use areas as well. I think Heartland Park is one of our mixed-use areas, and the Kanza Business Park, those types of areas. So any questions about mixed-use nodes?
Any questions?
All right, let's move along. So I mentioned earlier, we're separating commercial and office. So we've got an office category now. And those office categories generally are found, and it's these light blue areas. They're generally found adjacent to the more intense commercial areas. 29th and Fairlawn, I think, is a good example. There's office uses around that. Because office is a transitional use with the higher intensity commercial areas, and as is medium and high density residential, we've written in the text in the office category that residential mixed uses are appropriate for office areas because they both transition well away from the more intense commercial corner. So again, kind of weaving the ideas of mixed use into all the categories. So we call out office more specifically here on this update. Another change that we do here is we designate existing strip commercial areas. So these are, and really what we're doing is we're designating existing strip. We're not promoting new strip commercial development. So it's these areas, for instance, between 10th and Gage, the west side of Gage between 10th and 15th, basically. That whole side of that street is essentially a big strip commercial area. It doesn't stop. It starts at 10th and goes all the way to 15th. So what the policies in the document would talk about is, and it doesn't have to go away, but if we do redevelop that, we talk about consolidating access points and providing better transitions back to the residential areas, those types of things. And again, not promoting more strip commercial in the future, just providing some policies to maybe help those areas redevelop in the future. All right. We also tighten the boundary for the Wanamaker corridor. That's our regional commercial. It's that big red area on the map. We just tightened up the boundaries a little bit on that. And then finally, for the significant changes, we took off the neighborhood plan areas from the future land use map. So these areas that are within the city that are white and they're outlined and they're white and they've got a label on them. So Tennessee Town Neighborhood Plan, Oakland. We've pulled those off the map because the neighborhood plans for those particular neighborhoods have future land use policies within them. So if you're interested in a particular land use question in one of those neighborhood areas, you wouldn't look at this sort of 30,000 foot land use map. You'd look at the more specific neighborhood plan, the more specific plan. And it's a little easier to manage, and especially when you consider most of those plans all do have future land use plans, and they all have a lot of different categories. It would have been challenging to put those all on this map. So when we took the future land use plan to the technical advisory committee, they noted we had some comments. As Bill mentioned earlier, we don't show land uses in the urban growth area on this map. But the version that you have actually does show land uses around Sherwood, which is actually in the county still, but would be within our urban growth area. So we called out some specific land uses there. We also did at Montera, and so the difference being with Montera, I think we want to keep showing that as residential within our urban growth area, just because that's supposed to be an employment area, basically, and we want to call out specifically we don't want Montera to be part of that employment area. And I think we'll change what we show around Sherwood to make it more of the light green there, where we don't show specific land uses within the Sherwood area. We also had a comment about we don't really show NOTO on this map. It's part of our North Topeka East, our recently adopted historic North Topeka East neighborhood plan. You can go to that plan and find all sorts of good stuff about NOTO. But it is a regionally significant area that we should probably call out on the map a little bit. So I think we'll put a boundary around it or call it out in some manner, kind of like to make it more like downtown or one of those commercial areas. I think for the most part, those were the comments. Is there any questions about the future land use map or the categories that we handed out?
Any questions? It's all sinking in very well. I think
Well, that's good.
we're moving on, moving through well.
All right.
And I'll add, if you, it's a big map, so if, as you study it, as you look at it, and you see something that may not make sense, or you have a question about, please let us know. This is an open review time for you, for the public, for everybody, as we start to get this out there.
All right. We are going to talk about our draft urban growth area and service tiers. I'm going to give you a very, very brief background, just to sort of set this up a little bit. I think we've given some of this information to you previously, but so again, I'll get to it quickly. This is on the screen is the adopted the current planned growth areas for our land use and growth management plan. It was adopted in 2003. This was pretty cutting edge at the time it was adopted for Topeka anyway. This was really the first time that a comprehensive plan had included this idea of planned growth. These different colored areas on this map are planned growth areas where the community thought that they were going to grow to in the future. The salmon or the pink ones would be the employment areas here and up here, but then the blue and the yellow and the orange, those were the sort of the planned residential areas. So that was 2003. It was a bit of a challenge, a bit of an issue with how they came up with those areas. And this slide shows you that for the 2025 plan, the population projected was to be added to Topeka was about 95,000 people, which if you compare that to our typical growth rate, that was about 10 times the growth rate that Topeka's seen since 1960. So there was and if we project out population at our flat, typical decade by decade growth rate, we get about 12,000 people added by, what would it be, 2040. So part of the challenge then, so we had to put all those people somewhere. So these growth areas, to accommodate the 95,000 people, were pretty big. So that's it wasn't a very compact way to grow. They were pretty big to accommodate all those people. And then within these growth areas, so within this blue area, someone that's on the very edge of that growth area and wants to develop says, hey, I'm in your planned growth area, and we don't really have the rules to say, well, no, you are, but you're not contiguous to the city. So we don't really treat somebody at the edge of that growth area the same as we do if they're contiguous to the city. So that was one of the challenges there with the growth areas. So in 2007, we tried to refine those growth areas a little better by creating the municipal service area. That's shaded in green on that map. Again, that was a way to sort of provide a little more detail to the planned growth areas. But what it really is, it's a utility service area. It only considers water and sewer. It doesn't include provisions for all 5 of the city services, which are fire, police, water, sewer, and roads. So it didn't quite get there. The MSA does require, though, that if you want water outside of the city, for instance, you have to annex. So that's one of the good elements to the MSA. So we kind of put all that together and end up with the map that we handed out, which is the draft urban growth area and service tiers. So So we are proposing an urban growth area that's a compact growth area. It's meant to be a true future city limit, so it's a growth area that the city can reasonably expect to grow into. And we're using a more realistic population projection to come up with that growth area. And then taking everything a step further, we want to delineate that growth area by creating service tiers. So if you're at the edge of this growth area, it really doesn't mean the same thing as if you're contiguous to the city. And we'll talk about those service tiers next. Okay. So there's a few assumptions here that we use for the urban growth area and for the service tiers. The assumption is that orderly growth is most cost effective and should happen where the city already has made service and infrastructure investments. There must be a full suite of urban services available, which is fire, streets, police, sewer, and water, prior to consideration for new urban development. And then those areas that are most cost effective for the city's share of cost of developing should be the priority for future urban growth. Talk about the service tiers. Tier 1 is the existing city. That's where we've got or should have all of our services. It's the light blue area on the map, Tier 1. It's where the city it's the vacant land, the redevelopable land within the current city boundary. And it's where we have all of our urban services. And if we don't have all of the urban services, if some investment is necessary, it can more readily increase the value in the area because there's existing population around it. So this Tier 1 is the priority area for future urban growth. That's where we should look first when we're talking about growing the city. Go on to Tier 2, and here we're going to zoom in a little bit, make it a little easier to see. This is the southwest area, so this is Wanamaker over here. On this side, this is Gage right here. 45th Street here, 53rd down here. So Tier 2 is the dark blue areas on the map. These are areas that are contiguous to the city. They've got all 5 urban services available, or if they don't, the developer can extend the services and pay for that. So having 5 services is really and being contiguous to the city is what drives the designation of Tier 2. Primarily, though, it's fire coverage and having an urban road available. So in this case, this is Tier 2 because Gage is improved to 3 lanes right here, and we've got fire coverage in this area. That designates that area as Tier 2, basically, along with a couple other areas that are over here. This little one over here is a subdivision that's more or less surrounded by the city. It's currently in the county. So Tier 2 includes those areas that have sort of full services available and that we can annex unilaterally if it's to make us more compact and if it's affordable. So there are a few of those that are developed currently that we could annex unilaterally. All right, that's Tier 2. And there isn't very much Tier 2, if you can see on that bigger map. There's limited areas of Tier 2. Tier 3 is the bulk of the urban growth area. It's the light green on the map. These areas are Tier 3 because they don't have any city services, or maybe there's one. For instance, there's a sewer line that runs from this corner right here at Gage and 49th, and runs all the way down to the school, Auburn Washburn School here. So this area has a sewer line, a city sewer line, but doesn't have any of the other services like fire and police. And developing that area doesn't make the city more compact. So that's one of the keys of Tier 3. Developing Tier 3 wouldn't make the city more compact. The stars that are on these Tier 3 areas represent an area of Tier 3 that really has pretty much all of the services but for something. So in this case, this area here that's got the 2 stars that's surrounded by more or less surrounded by the city, there's fire, police, there's water and sewer available in that area. What it's missing is an urban road. So you could, invest in an urban road in that area and potentially open that up and graduate that area to a Tier 2. And then this area here that's west of our big blue area here, there really aren't any roads in that area. So if you could extend Fairlawn down and maybe bring a road across over to Gage from Wanamaker, you could open that area up, because it would be contiguous to the city at that point, or it is contiguous to the city, but it would have roads then at that point. It would have fire coverage and sewer and police and all that good stuff. So the stars represent areas that we can plan in the future to make prioritize for investment. So if the city needs additional areas to grow into in Tier 3, we can use those stars to help make decisions about where to put some money to invest and open up an area. Okay, we'll move on to the employment tier. We'll zoom back out. The employment tier is the dark green on the map. So the employment tier is the areas that are zoned industrial or planned for industrial. Tiers 1 through 3 are meant to be very rigid, and we don't want to hop around and get too far out and lose our compactness. But in the employment tier, it's a little more reasonable to extend infrastructure out to an area because you can get a better return on investment for an industrial type development. You might have a lower call volume on your emergency services because they have a sprinkler system or their own security system. So you get a little, return on investment for an industrial type use that you wouldn't get from developing a residential area from the city's perspective. So the employment tier is not quite as rigid and compact as the other tiers. So that's it for the service tiers. Any questions about that?
I was curious, is there any one particular service out of those 5 that seems to limit more than the others as far as keeping areas out of service tier 2?
Potentially fire protection.
We're already short a couple of them around the southwest and northwest part of the city.
Right. Yeah, what Commissioner Lackey said, that's true. We are actually in some areas short on fire coverage the way it is. So, and it's not, you can spend some money on a road and that's it. There's some ongoing maintenance costs, but when you build a fire station, there's personnel costs and all that other stuff. So, a developer can pay for a road. A developer can't really pay for a fire station.
Any other questions?
Okay, I got one more thing. We handed out in your packet some website comments that we got. Was a mind mixer. The city participates in Mind Mixer, and there was a question in July, and the question was, how can Topeka grow in an economically sustainable manner? And what we handed out was Was the comments that we got. I apologize. I think when I put it in here, some of these repeated a little bit within each one. Anyway, touch on three things that were pretty interesting. The very first one on page 1 talks about incentives to develop existing areas. Basically, that's definitely one of the main ideas in our plan and where we're going with this plan. And the second sentence there says, if the city keeps stretching its boundaries, the services, manpower, and resources will also be stretched. And I think he meant to say, and then taxes will be, and then taxes are raised. So again, that's what we're getting at there, is we're trying to be more compact and not stretch the city's boundaries. There are a couple people that touched on investing in the core, compact redevelopment. Thought that was pretty good. And then on page 7, about halfway down, there's a comment about quit supplying water outside of the city through rural water districts. Interesting idea there. But also later on in that comment, talked about only supplying water to areas that are annexed. And that is definitely where we're going with this plan, is to not extend infrastructure if we're not going to annex and develop that area in an urban manner. So those comments, a lot of those comments really track with what we're trying to do in this plan.
And the disclaimer is that they do not all express the views of staff.
Right.
So you must read. But for our for transparency purposes, we wanted to give you the unedited versions. I think all in all, though, very consistent with the thread that we're trying to weave in terms of our compact development and investing where we are. I was just in a meeting, and we got this very issue. We had somebody interested in wanting the city to extend a sewer. And we have a sewer right already in the ground that needs work to help build capacity for more development where that sewer is. So, these issues come up every day. That's kind of my point. And having the policies in place is, and then applying those, your job as a commission to make sure we have the right policies in place and we follow them is so important. Couldn't tell you how important that is. So appreciate your listening tonight.
Mr. Lackey?
I'd like to compliment the staff. I think I brought this up at the tech advisory meeting, maybe here, I don't remember, but they've worked on a zoning matrix, which is a huge job. This is a huge job. Dan has led the charge on it and has staff working on it. And I think we should congratulate the staff on, besides doing their regular work, they've turned out 2 huge projects here that we haven't looked at in a long time. So I'd like to thank you personally for that.
You're here.
Thank you. We're not done yet.
I think we all echo that comment as far as the hard work that you guys are putting forth. It's good to see how we're relooking at what we're doing in the community and what we can do better in the future to help the community thrive and grow in a responsible manner. Any other questions or comments for staff regarding this item this evening? We will see it again in the coming months.
Yes, the vision here, schedule-wise, is to try and give you a document, an actual planning document with all the text that Dan is working on here, so that we can walk through it, and you have enough time to review it by the end of September. Our hope is to maybe go to a public hearing at the end of October, if you think it's ready. So that's kind of the vision. We'll have the community meetings in between, in September, and hopefully that'll flesh out some things, confirm or make our job a little bit harder to update it, but that's the big picture right now.
All right. Thank you. We look forward to the coming months here. See what we got. Anything else before we look to end the meeting this evening? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
And second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all.
Thank you.
You've done a lot of extra.
Been a pleasure.